Hello everyone, welcome back to spoiler season for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. Before I get into it, first I would like to remind you that most of you who are watching are not subscribed to the channel, so if you like the spoiler videos, if you like any of my videos in general, it's a great way to help me out. I really do appreciate it. So over the weekend we got a handful of cards, not really enough to do individual videos on, so I'm just going to go over the rares here. We have Croaking Counterpart, 3 mana green blue sorcery, create a token that's a copy of target non-frog creature except it's a 1/1 green frog, and a flashback cost of 5 mana. So it's an easy way to kind of get a clone of something, but the creature's going to be next to useless in combat. It's not going to have good stats, but you get a second use out of it. It's pretty cheap, and a lot of that's because there's a trade-off. We get this awesome enchantment here, Unnatural Growth, a 5 mana mono green one. At the beginning of each combat, double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn. That's the beginning of each combat, so if you have this out here, I mean, this is going to be a staple, I think, in a lot of good green decks, because if you didn't have enough as far as winning in combat in green, now you do. Now you have an enchantment that all you really need to do with is just pair it up with Trample, and you pretty much have a win right there. And then we have Sludge Monster, 5 mana blue horror. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you put a slime counter on up to one other target creature. Non-horror creatures with slime counters on them lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 2/2. So that's pretty cool. And then yesterday, September 5th, we had Ghoul Harvest. Black and green sorcery, create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed, where X is half the number of creature cards in your graveyard rounded up, and a flashback cost of 5 mana. There seems to be an effort in lowering the power of Zombie Tribal, just to balance it with the other tribe, which just seems to be humans and Coven, which makes sense in retrospect because it's not very powerful as a mechanic. Making these zombies die after combat just means that you're not going to have the kind of board presence you used to with zombies, and you're not going to easily overwhelm like you used to. And then we have a big one here, Liesa, Forgotten Archangel. 5 mana white-black legendary creature angel, flying lifelink. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So nowhere near as powerful as the original Liesa. Just last year, I think it's funny we already get another one. But this Liesa is more like if you took Athrea's, but you also made a condition where your opponent's creatures lose their death triggers. I think they're very similar in that way, but that second ability is really cool, and I think something we're starting to see a lot of. And then for the 6, we have some pretty cool cards here. We have Auger of Autumn, 3 mana green human druid. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands from the top of your library. And it also has a Coven ability as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So that's pretty big. This is very similar to things like Courser of Crewfix and Vizier of the Menagerie. It's actually like a combination of those two, but there is a condition where you have to have Coven in order to cast creatures. I still think that first ability is going to be good enough to see play in a lot of decks. And then we have a mythic here, we have Fearless Adversary. So 2 mana human scout with a lifelink. When Fearless Adversary enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 mana any number of times. Put that many courage counters on Fearless Adversary. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each courage counter on Fearless Adversary. That is pretty good. It's a massive anthem for all of your creatures, so that's going to have a place in some decks for sure. You can proliferate those counters, make your creatures even larger. And then we have Geist Patrician, a 3 mana blue spirit knight with flying. Other spirits you control get +1/+1. Spells that you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. Spirit Tribal is back, also giving you great support for things like Flashback, the new Disturbed ability too, which seems to be heavily tied to spirits. And then we have Tainted Adversary, a mythic 2 mana black zombie with Death Touch, and when it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 mana any number of times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, you put that many +1/+1 counters on the Tainted Adversary, and then create twice that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed. So it's very much like that white mythic. There's a benefit to paying that cost more than just once. So anyway, let me know what you think about the spoilers so far. We are pretty much winding down towards the end. I'm really looking forward to seeing more from the Commander products too, along with some other top 10s for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. You all have a wonderful day. I will see you next video.